În următorul moment o să vorbim în limba engleză. Our next guest, he's a fast speaker, he's also a great achiever, and if Donald Trump were to introduce him, the US president would say something like, he's milking success like you haven't seen before. Please welcome to the stage Peter de Boer, CEO of AGRAR.
So thank you very much for the amazing introduction, I would say. We are successfully milking, let's say, but it's in a difficult context this year. So let's quickly move on. I will quickly go a bit to the results, but mainly I would like to focus today about our new large project. That is the development of the food cluster here in the Bucharest metropolitan area. But still, it's also good to stand still with the results. I mean, of course, since listing, we have a successful trajectory. Nevertheless, the management team and especially the president, I would say, is we are not satisfied with our valuation. Nevertheless, we had a fast growth. Last year, we had a share price growth of 90%. And in the last 4 years, around 400%. Also, if you can see here, our EBITDA surged with 470%. Currently, we are the largest milk producer in the EU, including the UK, and we are transforming the AGRAR Group into a larger agri-food platform. That means we have a quite significant diversification strategy, mainly impacting this year and next year from an operational point of view of implementing new investments. But our main strategy is to produce net zero milk by 2030, and we are completely aligned on schedule. We will see. Today we announced a new investment, the Kut 2 farm, approved financing by ING for 13.5 million euros. So still, although the agricultural sector is in a lot of difficulties, let's say, I think it shows the strength of the AGRAR that we are still able to attract this type of financing, especially if we look to an interest rate of 1.5%, which is for the Romanian market extremely competitive, I would say. Quickly over it, if we go to the Q1 result, last year we had an amazing year. We had a record high milk price. This year, we see through all over the world, that's the disadvantage of being in a commodity, let's say, quite a correction on the market. In Q1, we had a reduction of sales price of 30%. Luckily, slowly on, we're picking up. I mean, especially March and April were the hardest months, but we see slowly on an increase in milk price. Our milk price is over 40 cents again, but okay, last year it was significantly over 50 euro cents per liter, so we are not back on track. Nevertheless, the expectation is that the European milk price, the average in the coming 10 years, will be between 49 and 52 euro cents. Even in our most ambitious scenarios that we have created for the next 5 years, this price is higher, let's say, or the estimate is higher than in our scenarios. Also for Q2, we more or less estimate the same growth trajectory that we had in Q1. Of course, there will be some differentiators there. In Q1, we sold 4,000 tons of our organic fertilizer, as well as we did some herd optimization. Although we saw a significant decrease in milk price, the meat price was still remained high. So there we had an add-on as well from this quarter, as well as that we produced more than 20% of milk compared to the previous year. So operationally, it's really a successful year. Nevertheless, this year we estimate a more modest year. We see now a slowly increase of milk price, and the estimate is that especially from H2, the milk price will show a more significant increase. A benefit from our part would be in that part, we see a significant rise in chemical fertilizer prices. So the estimate is that food prices will significantly increase in the second part of the year, that there will be lower harvest, that other farmers are not purchasing chemical fertilizer. In our spring campaign, we are not affected by the Middle East crisis, at least not on the fertilizer part, because we purchased it already last year in October. And we aim for our autumn campaign mainly to use our own manure and to significantly reduce the purchase of chemical fertilizer. This we also did when Russia invaded Ukraine. That year we more or less only used our own manure, and we could quite keep up with our margin. Nevertheless, if you look to the margins, last year we had a profit margin of 28%. This year we estimate to be around 20%. Still, for an agricultural company, that are really strong margins, I would say. Still, to be very clear on doubling our EBITDA, we are really convinced, especially with the investment that we have announced today, that should be really achievable, let's say. So that's not, it's not a too ambitious target to double EBITDA based on 2025 in 2030. Also, we start now in our preparation to go to the main market of the Bucharest Stock Exchange, which the goal is to do that next year in April or May. To produce figures in IFRS. You see quite some difference here between the local GAAP and the IFRS. That's mainly due to the fact, to the Romanian legislation, we split the subsidies each quarter. That's how we book them. In IFRS, they get booked when you get the right for subsidies. So what we will see is, in Q2, on the Romanian GAAP, that we will see more or less the same growth as we had in Q1. It will be a bit, the indicators will be a bit different, because due to the exchange rate, etc., we will have, of course, an increase in our financial loss on that part, which is related to exchange rate. Nevertheless, it's good to mention that all our contracts are in euro, all our financing is in euro, so all our prices are set in euro in our company. So here, more or less, you will see more or less of stabilization, because the majority of the subsidies booked for the whole year. For the previous year in Q1, but on the local legislation, you will see that we come close to the figures that we have there on the net profit. If we look to the milk deliveries so far this year, we have 21% increase. I mean, that is really a significant achievement, I would say. And now we start more to optimize the herd. It doesn't make sense to produce or to consume more feedstock, etc., with these type of milk prices. But for the whole year, last year, to give you an idea, last year we produced 70 million liters of milk. This year we will produce over 80 million liters of milk. So we are constantly growing. So from an operational point of view, we're going really successful. And that's, we are implementing our first wheatgrass facility for 40 tons feedstock in a hydroponic farm we are constructing, and our processing plant. This financing was approved in the beginning of the year, financed by Exim Bank. This week, all the equipment gets delivered, and it will be our first milk factory in our company. Again, I mentioned already diversification. With a capacity of 150,000 liters per day, so over 50 million liters a year, which is internationally, on the European level, a small factory, but on the Romanian market, it's not that small, let's say, from that perspective, or it's even quite large, I would say, to that extent. And why we invest in this facility, I mentioned already, last year our milk price was over 50 euro cents. We sell our milk for mainly as a Dutch, German, and some countries around milk price, while we have Romanian cost. And we see for many years that Romanian milk price itself is low. So there would be always a risk. What if you could not sell for that Dutch, German price? So we thought, okay, we want to grow further on the business line where we are strongest in. Through this processing plant, we can take out water of the milk, meaning now we transport 100,000 liters with 4 trucks. This we can do from September with 1 truck. As well as that, mainly in the future, our goal, our aim is to at least 50% of the milk produced by 2030 will go outside of Romania to Greece, Italy, Croatia, but even in Bulgaria, there is currently we receive a higher price on the spot market than on the Romanian market. So this is a huge diversification strategy and a significant reduction of transportation costs. And to give you a bit of an example, last summer we received in Greece 80 euro cents per liter of milk. So through this we can further grow, and we think at least we will have, for all the additional milk produced in the coming years, also at least the European average or higher, or be higher than the European average. Today, I mentioned already, today we announced, we published on the BVB a new financing, which needs to be approved in 1 month by our shareholders. This is the investment or the farm that will bring the AGRAR milks production in the coming years to a production between 150 and 200 million liters annually. So we will further strengthen our leadership position in the EU. It's a financing of 10 million euros plus 20% own contribution. I mentioned already 1.5% interest plus 1 month Euribor. As I said, in the current market that we are in, this is extremely competitive, I would say. This farm will have 5,000 dairy cows. It will produce over 150,000 liters per day, around 55 million liters a year. And this farm will be, it's Coot 2. We are not that creative by names. We have now a Coot 1 farm. It will just be built on the other side of the road. We will have this farm. Also, this farm will get a processing plant, as I just mentioned. This farm will get the second processing plant in the group. Also, this farm, the aim is to mainly sell to Greece in the future and Italy. Nevertheless, with this factory, we can also diversify, not only geographically, but also a client segment. So we can also sell to ice cream factories, bakeries, Nestle, Unilever, and these type of companies. So it's bringing this investment is mainly done to further strengthen and to have a more resilient business model for the future ahead. This is how it looked like. So there you can see it's an existing farm. And I don't know exactly what is the pointer here, but you can see it over there on the other side of the road. So here we see a pipe. This year, in a few months, we will take the final investment decision with Black Sea Oil and Gas, where we're developing the largest biomethane plant in Central Eastern Europe, which will give us revenue streams between 3.5 and 5 million euros. And so far in the deal, we have only transportation costs. So from several farms. But the benefit of this new farm that you see over here will be that this farm will be directly connected with a pipe to the biomethane plant, as well as the Coot 1 farm. So there we have a profit margin of 100% from on the manure that we deliver in those factories. As I said already, this farm will also get a processing plant and several wheatgrass stations. So 30 or 40% of the feedstock will be grown on the farm every day fresh. So this will be with 2 rotors in the farm. So this will be a huge farm. And there, the other pipe that we see, there goes the biomethane directly connected into the grid in Romania. This legislation is approved at the beginning of this year. We are now obtaining the building permits, and the aim is to start building in the beginning of 2027, meaning that the plant will come operational beginning of 2028. Together with the Coot 2 farm. So also the Coot 2 farm is planned to start operations like milk production in the beginning of 2028. Next to that, we are also developing our compost project. So I said we have financed today announced this 10 million euros for the Coot 2 farm. That is around 5 million euros for equipment, 5 million euros for animals. And it's good to mention that all those animals will be raised by our other farms. So we don't aim to purchase animals from the market. Next to that, we have an additional financing 2000 announced to double our capacity of our organic fertilizer production. So 2 years ago, we had our first fabric. Beginning of this year, we opened our second fabric, where we doubled our production capacity 14,000 tons per day. And today we have approved another 3.5 million financing, also by ING under the same conditions, to double our production capacity to 28,000 tons of organic fertilizer. Currently, we are selling B2B, so think of horticulture, wineries, etc., as well as to agriculture with the favorable, in this case, the chemical fertilizer prices are favorable, let's say, I would say. So on this part, it is good that the prices are as high as possible. But we are also developing our own brand, which will be Agri Gold, Pure Nutrients, Golden Harvest. We will look to Romanian, you can think of, I don't know, do-it-yourself stores and these kind of things, as well as we will look to a European market where we expect higher margins. So in Q1, we sold on average per ton around 155 euros per ton. Our production costs were around, at that time, around 50 euros, so there is a really good margin for this project. Now, when obtaining the organic fertilizer certification, our aim is to sell for 180 euros per ton. If we look to smaller packaging, 5, 10, 20 liters, we have a packaging machine. There we estimate that margins could be higher, but it takes time to build up a market. But there we aim to sell between, let's say, 280 and 350 euros per ton. Those two new compost units that today are approved, they will not only produce fertilizer from cow manure, but we will mix them. We contracted chicken manure as well to make it even a more nutrient product. So those two lines will also mean a diversification in our organic fertilizer portfolio. Well, if we look, the Q1 farm, as I mentioned, is fully operational, 50,000 liters a day. The AGRAR farm, 60,000 liters a day. The Apold farm can still grow to 100,000 liters a day. The Strasje farm is currently producing on 30%. We started to milk there last year. We have now 2,200 animals there. By the end of this year, 3,400 cows. And by the end of next year, we will have there 5,000 cows, which produces 150,000 liters, exactly the production that the processing facility on that farm can handle. And then with the announcement today of the Q2 farm, which we started constructing in the second part of this year, another 150,000 liters. Here you see, then we will have a total production of over 500,000 liters of milk per day. Currently, there are even the largest processors in the country here in Romania, milk processors. So think of the Danone, Lactalis, Olympus, etc. They don't handle these type of quantities generally per day. This means we will produce on an annual basis over 168 million liters today. That means we come to we really do what we promise. Last year we announced our strategy from 25 to 2030 with this financing. This big target of producing 160,000 liters a year is more or less from their effect. Of course, we still need to construct the last farm, but all the financing is obtained. Also, we look to the composting units. We are almost there for what we have promised in 2030. So we are really on schedule by delivering what we have promised last year. What will it look like? I saw already, so in 2030, we will have this between 150 and 200 million liters of milk I just showed you. So the main thing, and I'm going to quickly move a bit space. So these are the two business lines. We call them two business lines with multiple revenue streams. So to show you the integrated business model of the AGRAR group. So currently, today, we operate 10,000 hectares in our group as feedstock provider for our farms. Now we are developing with a company from Rotterdam, a leading company in greenhouse technology and warehouse technology, the first wheatgrass production facility. This means 30 to 40% of the future feedstock from our farms will be grown on our farms, not anymore on conventional land. This uses 90% less water, no herbicides, no pesticides. The water can be reused. It dribbles down, so the water gets sprayed on top, and it dribbles down. It gets collected in the ground, and we wash it, and it can be reused. It's fully automatic, no manual power or whatsoever. As well as that, a lot of research shows that cows will give 3 to 4 more liters milk per day, as well as it gives a lot of health benefit. 30% to 40% of their feedstock all year round will have the same protein level, the same sugar level, and it's all year fresh. So you don't need storage, you just harvest in the morning, and then half an hour later, the cows are eating it. This is a big investment for us. This year we invest in this technology 3 million euros, but in the coming years in total we will invest 20 million euros in this technology. And with one facility we can replace more or less around 500 hectares of conventional agriculture. As well as now we import rapeseed, for example, or soybeans, and in this case this could replace those feedstock as well. So this is a huge improvement, and through this we will test this 1 year. We see a huge potential as well for this technology for the pork industry and chicken industry. So afterwards, together with this Logix, the company from Rotterdam, we will of course built a business plan to sell this technology on large-scale farms all over the world. Not only in Europe, but this would be an amazing technology for in Saudi Arabia, for example, who is now growing here, I think, don't know exactly where in Romania, on 50,000 hectares, Lucerna or alfalfa, which they need to transport to Saudi Arabia to feed their feedstock. And a huge contributor to the net zero milk production by 2030. So then we go to the farms. They produce two resources, milk and manure. 50% in 2030, so around 90 million liters of milk, will go directly to companies like Danone, Lactalis, Friesland Campina. And the other 90 million goes through our own processing plants, where we sell it mainly to Greece and Italy, as well as to more different type of business segments. Also in Romania, think of ice cream factories, bakeries, etc. that I mentioned already. So geographic expansion, client segmentation. Well, then we have manure. We see that goes first to the biomethane plant, and this will be the nicest plant of the nice. It's a nice idea. I mean, in 2030, 35% of our EBITDA will come from manure. So manure becomes really a source for us, a valuable asset. So it goes to the biomethane plant. There we have a reduction of 90% of our emissions, and we will receive 3.5 to 5 million euros annually. Then part of the digestate goes directly to our lagoons on the fields, where we can use it as our own fertilizer to grow crops. Secondly, a part will go to our composting units, where we valorize the manure for the second time, meaning that will be the compost product that we sell to horticulture and wineries. As I told you the prices already. Then a third valuation of the manure takes place, that we will also obtain voluntary carbon certificates. Currently, they have a value of between 20 and 30 euros. And we talk with companies like Vitol, Shell, etc., because we will have 100,000 of these certificates per year. So an additional 2 to 3 million euros. So through this, we valorize our manure 3 times. I mean, from that point of view, I think it's a really nice model. Then the second business line that we are now developing is the food cluster. So what we want to do, what we see in Romania is Romania imports 80 to 90% of its fresh fruits and vegetables. There's only one part of the year where Romania more or less covers its own production. It's around the summer, let's say. So the goal is to find partners, and especially in our studies, it shows that sales prices in supermarkets, for example, in Romania are higher than all its peers in Eastern Europe, but also than Spain, France, Portugal, Italy, Greece, etc. So there is a good margin to go. And maybe to have a nice fact, Romanians consume, for example, the most tomatoes in all of the EU. So what we're looking is here, we have some synergies with our energy experience and our fertilizer, but we're looking for partners, mainly from Western Europe, who operate large-scale, most modern greenhouses in the world. So you should think companies who have glass house coverage on 40 or 50 hectares with one crop, so highly specialized people, to convince them to come to Romania, where we will be an equity partner to a certain extent for them, as well as that we will manage the cluster. So now currently we are conducting a market research where we find the optimal product mix of 4 or 5 vegetables, where we can serve the Bucharest metropolitan area to 40 to 50% of their most consumed vegetables. That will go through the cluster where you share packaging, cooling, storaging, logistics, marketing, sales, etc. So you have shared services, and then the aim is to sell it to retail. So we are now discussing with the first few partners, and there is quite some interest. The AGRAR brings a lot of experience, it brings a network, it shows that it can operate in an industrial scale. So we are convinced that we will be announced probably already this year the first 1 or 2 partnership in this regards. And the aim is to start with some of the partners to build from next year the first greenhouses. Then I go to the last 2 slides to give you a bit of an idea. Here you can see tomatoes, open air. This is a study we did last year. Tomatoes on the glass give significantly higher revenues than and high prices than not under glass. Also to even look to the competitors, as well as we see that with the other produce, let's say. Because the advantage is you can grow all year round, and that's the idea. You want to harvest every day and to deliver every day fresh to Mega Image, Lidl, etc. Here we see as well a nice growth of constant growth in prices, let's say. So currently where Romania mainly struggles with is that it has relatively low quality food, if we talk about fresh produce, but it has one of the highest prices to its peers, as well as to Southern Europe. So it's a bit our business model in milk. We produce for Romanian costs, and we sell for Western European prices, let's say, and that's more or less the same what we want to do here. Yeah, so that was my presentation. Thank you very much.
Peter, welcome back. I think we have a question from the audience.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Wonderful presentation, as usual. Two questions from online. Why did you choose to finance the new investment by bank loans and not by a capital increase?
Well, if you had listened to my first quote, I said we are not satisfied with our valuation. This is the main issue also going next year to the main market. Because if you want to attract large pension funds, etc., it means we need to raise 20 or 30 million. Now, currently we have a market cap of 100 million. This is more or less impossible, or as a family we will be too much diluted. So that is the simple reason for it, as well as that we obtain 1.5% interest rate plus 1 month Euribor. So, I mean, from that perspective, it doesn't make sense to dilute as a family. It's a pity because we would like to make use more of the capital market. That's the reason I was with my CFO. She's here today as well, Michaela. We did a roadshow. We went to London, Frankfurt, Paris, Zurich, and Geneva. That we are, we try to find ways to improve the valuation. Let's say we had a really good feedback. From their perspective, we are all undervalued, and now we all need to convince you, let's say, that you someday agree with us. But we come from a long road. I mean, we had many years, 3-4 price earnings ratio. Last year we ended on 7. Okay, if you look just this year, but it's an incidental year, it's probably on our budget 13. But compared to other companies, I would say our valuation with what we have delivered so far is rather low.
Thank you. And the second one, what impact does the growing medical advice to avoid cow milk in consumption? Do you feel some decline in the consumption?
No. This I would rather say this is more non-existent. That is a lot of marketing into this kind of replacement of milk. If we look to the world market, is that demand in the next 10 years will grow with 20% on world level. What we will see in Europe is that Europe will produce mainly more higher value-added products, so protein, cheese, etc. We will see more just raw milk, etc. There will be less on powders, probably as exports on this part, because we see an increase in production in India, in China. But on higher value-added products, there is an estimated growth. On European level, they estimate more or less a consumption similar as today. They see for many years already that some drinking raw milk, or processed milk, with just a glass of milk, that is declining a bit, but it's replaced with cheese and a higher protein product. As well as what we see with meat. Red meat currently is more or less replaced more and more with poultry or white meat, let's say, as a higher protein product. On the European level, the estimate is that by 2030 we will see a decrease in production with 5%. But for example, in the Netherlands, they estimate a decrease in 20% due to the nitrogen issue. As well as a lot of farmers, the far majority of the farmers, 70% is older than 55 years old. And have no succession. So we will see more industrialization and a movement to Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe, especially Romania, it doesn't matter, but in the future also Ukraine, are really well positioned to feed again, how it probably was in the past, the rest of Europe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter.